We got ourselves some new ReZero content. It's not really new, it's 3 years ago, but did you know that there was a $375 ReZero story? Mr. Jake, let me know what it was about. Hopefully I don't get spoiled here. If I do get spoiled, the person that linked this will get banned.
ReZero is one of the few series which is able to effectively create a large world of interesting characters and events.
Yeah.
As most of you know, there are tons of side stories and side novels containing different ReZero characters.
Yes, and I will be checking out the side stories as we get near to February. There's a whole EX stuff that community members have, created by cutting out some of the spoilers, but I will be checking out that as we gear towards February.
And they contain a large amount of lore. Some of you are also aware of EX novels.
That's the one I'm talking about.
There are currently 4 out, and EX Novel 5 will be coming out shortly, focusing on Priscilla.
Oh.
In addition to EX novels, whenever there is a new ReZero light novel, there are normally 3 exclusive shop special side stories,
And the side stories are crazy. The side stories are crazy because there's so much foreshadowing and extra exposition that you would never get from it. Like, for example, there's a side story that literally has Reinhard and Ramji talking about the potential kidnapping of Felt 15 years ago. They talk about that shit in the carriage, and I'm like, what the fuck?
which are only obtainable at certain retailers. However, today I want to talk to you about an expensive side story in ReZero.
Why is it so expensive? They're milking Felt lolicon content. $375 for the side story? Why? 9 pages. What happened? It must be crazy.
The side story, Lone Wolf of the Slums, Felt Chan's Noisy Days, is quite possibly the rarest side story to own in ReZero. In fact, it's so rare that obtaining a physical copy today...
Oh, rather than the content maybe being risque, it's more like there's a very limited amount of copies for it, therefore supply and demand is just super rare.
...would cost you 41,000 yen, which is equivalent to $375
Jesus.
or 272 pounds. So most of you would ask me,
Hello,
why is it so expensive? And to
combination of low volume, right? There's not enough supply. Anything that's very limited, scarcity drives up the prices, but also the story itself. What happened? I'm just gonna guess lolicon shit.
understand that we need to look at how you were supposed to obtain the side story. As far as I'm aware, based on the knowledge I have found, it was actually really difficult to obtain. You had to jump through various hoops.
Yeah, knowing this goddamn author and how he just has... Remember that one meme about, like, in order to get, like, Tape putting the most important lore in a toilet paper roll that can only be found in a specific suburban district of Japan when the moon is full? You know those kind of memes? Like, the most ridiculous ways of hiding the content. Like Subaru and Amelia's date being hidden in a fucking pachinko parlor, or you have to go gamba to see the fucking date in the machine.
To actually get it. And the most common analogy I can give you is with the Greed What If light novel. So this Greed What If light novel focuses on what would happen if Subaru
took the contract
with a kidnap.
Yep.
This light novel can only be obtained if you buy every ReZero Blu-ray volume. And each Blu-ray volume will give you a voucher or some form of code.
What the fuck? You gotta buy every Blu-ray. I mean, it is smart. It's smart in the sense, rather than opening up for everybody, that you go out of your way to, like, have these achievements. By collecting all these things, it's for the hardcore audience, right? This is specifically for the most hardcore ReZero audience, to get them to collect everything, and then once you gather all the Dragon Balls, you can get one fucking side story.
And then when you buy all of them, you'll be able to complete the voucher and hand it in, and you'll get the Greed What If light novel for free.
This is some Willy Wonka shit, bro. Why is trying to understand more ReZero's side story harder than getting into fucking Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? Holy shit. I gotta buy like 10,000 chocolates, separate ReZero products, and maybe I'll have like a shiny fucking, wrapper that'll be like, oh, you got it. Boom, 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 boom. Now you can see the side story.
This was apparently very similar to what you had to do to get this Felt side story.
Jesus.
It was extremely tedious. The second thing is the year in which the side story came out, which was 2014.
Okay.
2 years before the season 1 anime even aired worldwide. So with that in mind, ReZero was definitely less popular back then, so not many people would have jumped through all of the hoops to obtain this story, hence why it's so rare.
Even more rare, right? Scarcity always drives up the cost.
Other eagle-eyed viewers might actually note that the art style wasn't actually done by Otsuka.
They look totally different. Otsuka has a very specific way of detailing the face. I don't know exactly what it is, but you can clearly see that. Look at the face here and look at the face here, right? This one, the cheeks, right? Less of a chin, more cheeky over here, less wide, I guess. The eyes too. It's I don't know how to describe it, but the way that Otsuka does his art is very distinct.
The normal artist for ReZero illustrations. The next question is whether or not the side story is any good. After all, if you paid $300 and
it might be just trash. It could be
$75 for this side story, it must be amazing, right? Well,
no.
The side story is pre-Arc 1.
Like 9 pages.
So before the events of the anime. Felt
honestly, before the event of when Subaru arrives to Lugunica, I think it's fascinating. There's a lot of shit that happened, right? The demi-human war, all of these different things that happened, even like how Lugunica became a continent dependent on the Dragon's Covenant, right? I think that there was like previous wartime periods against Wallachia, which is a southern continent, right? I think there's a lot of shit that goes on. Even like what Wilhelm said recently. What did we say? That someone is using necromancer powers, and we know that this person, his name is Sphinx. By title only, they're a witch. They're not an actual witch, but Sphinx had necromancer powers. This shit happened back in the day. So it's like all of the events that happened before Subaru arriving is very, very interesting.
Saves a young child from being kidnapped. In response to this, the kidnappers then chase Felt instead. Over the course of events, Felt kicks one of them in the balls, and then she calls the guards to help her. And that's when we get this illustration we can see on screen of Felt calling the guards.
Why are the guards getting all horny right over here? Why are they getting so fucking excited down here?
And at the bottom you can see the kidnappers.
Oh,
and
it's
I'm not sure why, but I find it funny.
Why the kidnappers getting so fucking hyped right now? They're enjoying the lolly scream for help.
Because the kidnappers look like the reaction guy meme. So I'll put that on screen so you can see what I'm talking about.
What's going on with the kidnappers?
After that, the kidnappers are taken care of by the guards, and Felt goes off to hang out with Old Man Rom.
Okay.
And that's the entire side story.
That's crazy, bro. 375 USD, by the way. 375 USD. That's close to like 500 Canadian for me. Holy fuck, I could not imagine paying that much money for this mid. But it's not necessarily about the story, right? It's like a very exclusive collector's item, right? It's not about the story. It's about how rare and scarce it is. The hurdles that you have to go through to get this, especially when ReZero didn't even have an anime, which means that more enthusiastic people that were willing to go find this. It's very, very limited, very shiny.
Did I forget to mention that the side story is only 9 pages long? Meaning if you bought this side story for $375, you would be paying $42 per page.
That's
which
crazy.
Is a big yikes. Either way, this was the story of the most expensive ReZero side story. Hope you enjoyed it and learned something new.
What crazy lore, huh? 375 fucking USD. Or 9 pages worth of content. But again, it's all about the scarcity. Please go check out Jake's channel if you haven't. Guy makes great ReZero content. I love his, summaries and little, funny stories about the side story content. And until February, right, we got a lot of more ReZero stuff to prepare for. Hopefully, there'll be more fun stuff that we can cover.